Hey, Fakar, thank you for joining us today. As we're getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I have been following your content for quite some time, and it's really exciting for me to be here and share my thoughts and ideas.
And why sales for you?
Well,
That big exhale.
that's a great question. So, I started as an engineer. So basically, I was an engineer, and then I got into the business space, and then I got my MBA, and then I had to start somewhere. Like there are certain business functions, like marketing, sales, human resources, supply chain, and whatnot. I always knew that I could be like someone who could do sales or marketing, but not like HR or anything else for that matter. So that was the opportunity that came up, and it was just like all the doors got closed, and there's just one door,
It's
one
open.
opportunity in front of you, and you say, "Hey, what the heck? Let's do it."
Yeah.
And then I just fell in love with that. So I've been doing sales, specifically sales for in the IT space for the past 8-9 years, and it has been pretty amazing so far.
And why did you skip being a developer? Why didn't you just go into engineering? Was that not your passion, or were you more, you wanted that social interaction that you really don't get if you're at the keyboard all day?
Yeah, it's funny when we say engineer. So nowadays everybody just assume that it has to be software engineer. I was not.
You
My
weren't a
engineering
software.
was not in software. It was in chemistry. I was a chemical
Oh,
engineer in the textile and apparel space. So it wasn't like that. But yes, I at one stage I did realize that I had I had extracted more fun out of a human interaction. I was, um, uh, part of a lot of societies in my academia, and I was leading a lot of student activities and efforts. So that's what I loved.
yeah. And how long did it take before you were comfortable in sales, or was it just a natural progression?
No, it took me a while. So if I give you a little bit background, so the company that I started working with, that was based out of Pakistan, and all the clients that they had were in the United States, like the CIOs and CTOs, VPs, CEOs of SaaS-based companies or other organizations who want to develop a product or need something to be done within the realm of IT. So when I started this journey, I was new to sales, I was new to tech space, and I was new to the US audience. Like, you speak with somebody in the United States versus Australia versus United Kingdom, you feel like you're speaking the same language, but they're like, different personas at a geography level. So that was really tough. Like there's a lot of things that I had to learn, but at the same time it was very, very exciting. Why? Because every day there was something new that I was learning about sale. Like, hey, how are you going to grab someone's attention on a cold call in first 5 to 10 seconds, because that's the bracket that you
Window.
have.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the later stages of your sales process, now things are going to get a bit technical. People are going to know whether you have the right credentials for them to really spend time with you. Okay. And at the same time, understanding American audience and their nuances, that how they are set up, how they like to speak, the kind of
Yeah.
idioms and metaphor that they use. So every day in all of these 3 or 4 categories or dimensions, I was learning something new, and I was, learning that. And the very next day, I was putting that to practice. And when I see that, okay, this works, that's really nice. And whatever that didn't work, okay, scratch that, or maybe give it one or more tries before I perfect that, and before I discard that. So that was really exciting, and that kept me hooked up with this.
And you're also selling into a super difficult space, highly competitive, lots of alternatives. People really don't know. if they don't know you or your company, your brand, it's how to differentiate.
Yes. And you are absolutely right. But, my opinion is that this is a good news for somebody who is in sales. Why? Because it's really commodity. And, there, if it's a non-American brand, if it's not Amazon, Google, or Facebook,
Right.
the CTOs or CIOs that I sell to, my major buyer persona, they don't really care about who you are, right? Which means that having a good salesperson to have those initial conversations, build rapport, give them trust, build confidence, and make them move through your sales process is very, very important. So in a way, I think it's a good news for somebody who's in tech space and doing selling, versus if you are representing a big brand. For example, I'm representing Microsoft. Okay, so I can do better selling, but I'm not going to have that kind of clout or weightage within my organizational, functional hierarchies and the units that we have.
Yeah. And then you moved into sales leadership. What was the motivation there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that I was very good at managing people. So I think that. When we talk about sales, oftentimes when I listen to the podcasts and I follow a lot of, sales leaders just like yourself, and hear what they have to say and what their guests have to say, they typically box sales into a functional category. Like, it's sales only happening when you are speaking with a prospect and you're trying to convince them that you have the right solution. But what I've learned from sales is this, that it's everywhere. Like, you're talking to your team members and trying to tell them that, hey, you got to make more dials, and you have to sell that idea, that why is it important, how is that activity going to help them become better, have career advancements, gain their financial freedom, and objectives and whatnot. So keeping that in mind, I guess that I just applied the same principles that I learned while I was an SDR and then account executive, and then I started moving towards the management side. Secondly, I guess that so there is only so much that you can achieve every year. So you can't, like, it's not like you're going to achieve $1 million first year, next year is going to be $2 million, and 10 years down the line, every year you're closing $10 million, and you're just being a single sales person. Yeah. So there is a certain, the management has a certain idea, like, okay, this guy gives me this much in revenue, I would be happy to pay him X compensation. Now, if you want to 2X that, obviously you have to now start recruiting and training people and create a bigger impact. And then you can go to your management and say that, hey, this time I have achieved 10 times the revenue that I achieved 2 years ago with all these people. Now I want more, like I want 1.5x, 2x, 3x, whatever that is. So these are some of the motivations that I had, which allowed me and forced me to get into the management role.
And what do you look for in salespeople?
Most important thing. So majority of the salespeople that I have, they are in Pakistan. So so English is not their first language. So it's very, very important that they have a good grasp on communications while using English. But that aside, I guess that authenticity and empathy. Okay, so a lot of the people that I've seen who failed is that they have memorized certain scripts or certain, company value props, and they would just, use them whenever they get the, even when there's not the right opportunity. Rather than you just forget about your pitches, just have a conversation. What keeps you up at night? Okay, you have a product and it's getting slower. More people are using that product, but with time it's getting slow. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about that? What kind of technology stack that you guys have used? Okay, and then not only that, you also have to understand what are the business drivers. Like, you can't just stay focused on the technology part. You can create, metaverse level, AI level technology, but you got to see what will be the monetary ROI that the company is going to get. So be authentic, have some empathy what they're struggling with, what kind of challenges they are facing. It is difficult for the people or the prospect that I meet with. It is difficult for them to differentiate and really know that we are the right fit. So don't get upset if they're not giving you your due attention. Try to understand that they get bombarded and get reached out by so many people like us, and it's not their job, our job, to help them understand that why we could be the right people. And for that, you need to be authentic. It
Yeah.
also means that if somebody is saying that I have this need, and based on your knowledge, you think that our organization doesn't have that skill set, you just tell them upfront that, hey, it's really nice meeting with you. I know what your challenge is. However, I don't feel like that we have the right skill set or the service to serve you at this moment. So let's stay in touch, but I don't want to waste your time. And they will appreciate that. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you so much. So that's authenticity and that's empathy. So this is what I really, really look for. But these things get developed over time. So on day one, you can't really expect your new recruit to have empathy and being how to be authentic and build rapport. So at different stages for different roles and hierarchy within sales, I would expect different things from my salespeople.
And you really hit on a nail, because I think too many people in every space they're sending their messages. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is why we're the best at it. But the
Yeah.
person listening goes, I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't believe this. It's
Mhm.
got to be about them.
Absolutely. So that is the that is I have wrestled with that a lot, because you just send out one generic message to 500 or even 5,000 people and just wish that, okay, somebody somewhere right now would be thinking about exactly this problem. They're going to look at my message and then say, hey, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
However, you lose more than what you get. Like if you just do a little bit of homework, and I'm not talking about hyper personalization where you really track these guys on Facebook or Twitter and really say what are their political ideas and then leverage that. I'm not talking about that. Just see, hey, which industry are they in? And if it's, we are just recovering from the COVID phase, so there were a lot of industries, specific industries, which got hit badly as compared to the others in the COVID. So look at the industry, look at their role, and that's it. Like, hey, if somebody is a CTO and it's a retail SaaS platform that they're offering, retail is currently not doing well. If I'm talking about the COVID era, so you just say, hey, I did some research. I guess you have a remarkable product, but retail is not doing any good. I'm not sure how you are keeping your developers on board when there might not be any development. I might have a solution for you to retain your talent while keep adding new features. Are you open to have a chat? Now, that's enough. I don't want to go anything beyond that. I want to talk about, hey, I know you have worked in these 5 companies before. I know that you have just joined this company 2 months ago, because that doesn't make sense. And you don't really have to spend too much time. But I agree with this, that you really have to, talk about them. And once you have done that, they don't really care, who you are, where you're based out of, which company you represent. They trust you, and you start building that rapport, that confidence. It's again down to understanding what their problems are and whether or not we can solve them.
That's it. Because everyone talks about personalization and relevance, but you got to get them talking.
Yeah.
That's where the magic happens. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the curiosity and empathy.
Yeah.
Did someone teach you this, or was it just out of day after day getting rejected that you figured this out? Or
Yeah, I would go back to what I said earlier. So I think when teachers are available, a lot of people are going to take them for granted. Like if I had, if I had been in the United States and I had, big hierarchy, my VP, my director, my manager who have like ton of experience, I am sure that I would have taken that for granted. Whatever they would have taught me, I would have said, okay, this guy is always teaching me something. And this guy is like, on my case all the time. So I didn't have that access. Like I don't have those people. I was like probably the first guy when this company was too small. Now they're pretty huge now. And this is just an interesting time where, I'm leaving my current organization and I'm going to be starting my own firm in the same space. That's another thing. But, I was always worried that who's going to teach me? How am I going to learn about my IT space, my American buyers persona? And, that fear was the stimulus for me to keep looking at the content or listening to the podcast, what Brian has to say. And I still remember one podcast of yours, you say when they're not saying something up front, then they're covertly just declining that and all of that, and listen to John Barrows and Josh Braun and all of that. There's a lot of people. And then, these are my teachers. These guys have spent a lot of time in their space, and now they are just sharing their wealth of knowledge with you. Why won't you take it? Just go ahead, listen, grab a cup of coffee and listen to their podcast. And there's a lot of things you're going to learn, you're going to apply. So all of the learning that I've done is through online content that I have, consumed, and then was able to apply that right next day and see the results and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And then keep on building, adding to my repertoire.
That's it. I kind of call that the new smart, where the old smart is you have to go to a building, listen to the teacher, buy the book, take the tests. And that can work. It worked at high school and college, but sales, you have to have that ownership, where the self-motivation, the desire to learn. And when something fails, examine why did it fail? Was it the wrong person, wrong time, wrong approach? Do your reps kind of take that from you, or is it something that you've kind of got to nudge them toward?
I wish that all of these can really take that. So it's very simple. It's like the scientific method. You say, hey, this is my sales process. I'm going to break it down into its specific components. For example, a discovery call. One of the components of discovery call is needs establishment. Okay, so I'm just going to think about needs establishment. I'm not going to think about anything else for now. Within needs establishment, what are the best ways you can establish the need? So I'm going to have some hypotheses. Method A, method B, method C. Next 5 calls, I'm going to apply method A and see what happens. Then method B, then method C. And there is going to be something that's going to come out of it. So self-reflection after you have applied or executed your experiment or hypothesis is very, very important, because that's where you say, okay, this works. I'm going to make it part of my best practices and whatnot. And yes, I tell all of my reps that, hey, don't complain that you are not getting any guidance or any teaching. Nobody's helping you, although you're getting a lot of help as compared to the help that I used to get 10 years ago. Yeah. But think about it, just a change of mindset. So your learning is not my responsibility. This is yours. I am here as a resource, just like, these podcasts, just like libraries and ton of other stuff.
The whole internet.
Use that resource, but don't complain that you haven't learned, because that was not my responsibility from day one. But yeah, some of them, they really follow my methodology, how I learned. Others learn from me, but I guess that everybody has their own way of learning, and I see that there are a lot of people successful who persevere and have discipline. Sales is a very, very disciplined function, just like army or military. You have to be absolutely disciplined. It's not like anything else. So I have a mixed bag, to be honest.
And did you take a scientific approach or an engineering approach to it, where you draw out the structure, you kind of keep track of things?
Yeah, kind of, because my undergrad was in the engineering, so I learned all about physics and chemistry and all of that. They have this certain methodology. in all of that. So you really have to, like, that really helps you. Those frameworks really help you get organized, especially when you're getting into uncharted territories. Let it be a new service, let it be a new, buyer persona or whatever that is. So that those approaches really help you, because a lot of the scientists, they are doing discoveries. They don't know what's going to happen. They're just running experiments and they learn from that. So that was in my DNA. So I think that sales itself is part, I would say, art, part science, and then ton of luck. There are so many uncontrollable factors that that you don't have control over. That is going to be part of the success that you're going to get at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, you're in a space where the need is high, but the alternatives are high too. Meaning there's lots of alternatives, lots of need. So the salesperson is critical. How do you get the need kind of addressed? Because everyone's got the need, right? The people, you can tell, I mean, that they're hiring people that you have that can do it. They obviously have the need.
So yeah, need is pretty diverse. Again, the biggest difference between what I do and what other sales people would be doing who are in the product companies is that we are a services provider. So it's a service. It's not a product. So product has certain already a target persona, whether it's for salespeople or it's for the hiring manager or it's for the the recruiter or whatever. It's a collaboration tool. It has certain parameters. Like you can't talk about, you can't order Uber from Facebook. Like nobody's going to be talking about that. There's certain parameters to that. Yeah. Whereas in the services, you can come across anybody. Like somebody says that a lot of people are coming and saying that, hey, we want to build our own metaverse. We want to build our own, cryptocurrency. And somebody's saying that I want to build a mobile app. And somebody's saying that I already have a mobile app, but I want to add features and all sorts of such stuff. So I guess that's where salesperson is important, and his job or her job to do the needs establishment part. So, as long as clients feel, the step number one is that they're being understood. Forget about your solution, forget about your pricing, forget about your logistics approach or whatever. The very, very first thing in my experience is the next person wants assurance that they're being understood. You really understand what their problem is. How do you do that? You ask intelligent, relevant questions. You repeat back, this is what I've understood. And you go one step behind ahead. If this understanding is correct, then I feel like that your bigger problem is this. Am I correct? Once they feel like they're being understood, pricing is important, but it still becomes secondary. Pricing is not primary. First thing is they want to be understood. Hey, this guy understands my problem. He gets what I'm struggling with. That's where the magic. So in my whole sales process at different stages, this is the most important part where I still, take part in various client calls with my team members. And this is where the real magic happens. Once this part is done correctly, rest of the part is relatively very, very easy and straightforward.
Well, that's it, because people start off in sales thinking it's about talking. Then they learn it's a little bit more about listening. Then they really get it. It's making the other person feel understood.
Right.
Because that's what gets you that rapport, the openness, the bi-directional communication. And everyone sticks to facts and figures and speeds and feeds.
Yeah, you can have all those facts and figures, but you really want to make sure that does that really matter to the person on the other side? Just because you have done some research or your marketing team has conducted a research and shared with you that, hey, all the CTOs in the United States have these 3 top challenges. And you just say, hey, we spoke with a lot of CTOs and these are the 3 challenges. Are they also your challenges? Don't do that.
Well, that's how we were taught, right? That's how I was taught, right? And it was like, you might get some curiosity and interest, but you're not really connecting with the person.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So understanding them is important. And then obviously everybody's a human being, although the space in which we operate, It's very, very technical. You can do 2 + 2 = 4. If it's not, then bye-bye. We're not interested. But still, at the end of the day, they are humans. So you also have to kind of, address the emotional side, like, them as a person, like what are they dealing with? That usually happens over time, not in the first meeting, but that's the first step that you need to keep in mind. Don't overdo that. Don't try to become their friend in the very first meeting.
Right.
Give them high fives or whatnot, because I wanted to use humor a lot in my conversations, because I say, yeah, that's really gonna break the ice for me very well. But you can't apply humor in your first meeting with everybody. You don't know what that person is made
Thinks
up
he's
of,
funny. Yeah.
what they're day, what they're struggling. Maybe they have somebody who is suffering with some illness in their family. So don't try to be cheeky and everything, but over time, yeah, you can also address their human side, and that's going to forge a really good bond with them.
And what's your why? What keeps you motivated?
I think so. In the beginning, it was earning. Like I always, I heard a lot of stories that, hey, salespeople, they make a lot of money, so you're gonna have a lot of money, and you can buy, new fancy vehicles and whatnot. So that was a real big motivation. I'm gonna make money, but I do realize, and I used to read these articles which says that, hey, money is not everything. After a certain time, money is not gonna be your motivator. And say, yeah, I don't know who these guys are, but I did realize in my own career, in my past 10 years, I made a lot of money. And also, I was getting paid in the US dollars. I'm in Pakistan. So I had so much, money that I could spend. But after some time, I do realize that, hey, maybe I need something more than money. That's where I decided I'm going to start my own firm and do it on my own. But if you really want to ask me to be specific, I think it's about learning. Like if you're not learning anything new, you can make as much money as you want, but after a while, you will become disengaged, and your performance is start getting suffered. Like you're not gonna be the same guy, same salesperson who used to close so many deals 5 years down the line if there's nothing new that you're learning.
And so you kind of had that curiosity about sales as well. And that
Yep.
really kind of took your game to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So that all, like, everything come together in a way where I can see, all right, I see all the parts coming together, and I can see my way forward. So it's still like, when you speak with certain prospects who have never spoken with you before, never heard of you before, they are now taking the next step. They say, hey, let's have another meeting. Then they say, hey, these are my requirements. Hey, give me your proposal. And then you convince them to sign a contract with you. So that gives you some internal happiness that, hey, I, made that happen. I did the convincing while being honest. So that gives you a kick all the time. Even now, like after 8-10 years in this space, I still, when I close a contract, no matter what the deal size is, I feel happy about it. I give myself a pat and tap my chest, and then just go back to my work again.
Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Oh yeah, so this has been my weak area. I've been so much involved with my work that I've never been able to build my own personal brand or share my thoughts over LinkedIn or whatnot. So I have the best way to connect with me is my LinkedIn, and hopefully I'll be spending more time building my own brand and sharing all the learning that I had accumulated over all these years with the rest of the people. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to get connected.